not the first time, right? Yeah, we need to figure it out. At any rate, chapter 9, classification. Okay, that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to go through a study of taxonomy and introduction to the domains and the kingdoms. All right, so what are we going to do here? Well, we're going to kind of review. You're not going to write this here into your notes. What you are going to do is tell me ways that we can classify these buttons. What are some ways we can classify these buttons? Maddie K. The color, yes. Abby. Shape. Kylie. Size. Robbie.
Design.
It's like, oh my gosh, it's like every other one. Your hands go up and down. It's comical. Okay, Anthony.
The amount of different holes.
Yeah, number of holes.
What it's made of.
What it's made of, the material.
The smell.
The what?
The smell.
The smell of them. Okay.
The size.
The size of the holes, okay? If you need a really, really thick thread, like let's say this is a heavy duty jacket and stuff like that, if you need really, really thick thread, then the size of the holes definitely will determine what size thread you can actually put on there, okay? Or maybe what material you can secure it to the actual garment that you're using, okay? What else? Anything else? I know we said a lot.
Like the material?
The material, I think we kind of mentioned that there. The texture on it, all right, the design on it there. Do you have a need to classify buttons? You personally? No, why not? Brooklyn, why don't you need to classify buttons? Yeah, do you have many buttons? Just what's on your clothes, right? Yeah. You may not need to do this, may not need to classify buttons, but who would? Your mom? Yeah. She sews. Okay, somebody that sews a lot. Maddie? What's that? Okay, so somebody that sews a lot. Okay, anybody that fits in that category, we don't see that. Robbie?
A tailor.
A tailor. Good. Okay, seamstress. How about a fashion designer? A button creator, a button manufacturer, right? A button factory. Okay, what else? Where do button factories send their buttons? Stores, yeah, shops. What about an artist? Maybe there's artists out there that use buttons. Okay, yeah, there's all kinds of things. What about a button collector? Okay. And that might sound silly, but some buttons are worth thousands of dollars depending on where they were made, who they were made by, so on and so forth. There's a whole world in button designing, right? Okay. So, difference between us and them. Well, they use buttons, right? They have a lot of buttons going on. Let's see. Why would a button factory, why would it be beneficial for them to classify their buttons? What do you think? Levi? Okay, make sure they sell enough to go that way. But what else? What do you think, Keely?
If you could sell them that some of the buttons might not, like if someone were to buy them, that they won't get the wrong size.
Yeah. So, I'm sure when somebody puts in an order for buttons, they are specific about the buttons, right? Okay, because if they wanted just a plain old button, you sent that fancy pink one in there. You might get a customer service call that isn't too happy, right? What about time? What if you got an order for 1 million buttons, which if you're a button factory, you sell buttons. I mean, that's what your job is. So I'm guessing 1 million buttons is not that big of a deal. You sell 1 million buttons, and they all have to be, a 2-hole tan button that's made of plastic material and like a centimeter in diameter. And you just kept all your buttons in this giant vat of buttons, okay? So then you'd have to go in every time you get an order and you'd have to sort, pull out 1 million of those guys. That's a pain in the tush, right? Okay? Big pain in the butt there. So we can classify buttons. Why do I have buttons up here? Not because you classify, but because buttons are silly, right? Who classifies buttons? Well, the reality is several people classify buttons, and there's a need to do so too, okay? Think about going home into your kitchen, okay? We use classification and all kinds of things. I tell you, get a spoon out. Do you know where you're going to find the spoon? Yeah. You know the drawer, okay? You know the location. This is we're kind of like Pavlov's dogs. We get into a groove, okay? I bet you even know exactly where at in that drawer it is, okay? Usually we have like an organizer in there, And just think about it for a minute. If somebody switched up your spoons with something else. The other day, all of our spoons were in the dishwasher because we had, I don't know, lots of people over and had dessert and stuff too. Well, the spoons, when somebody put them back in, whichever one of my children, they decided to be cute and rearrange all the silverware so that way the spoons were clear on the other side, the little spoons, and the big spoons were on the other side. And the first thing somebody did, my husband did when he went in, he said, somebody rearranged the spoons. Like, because we know where they are. It's a habit, right? We open the drawer. We don't even have to look. We just put our hand in and grab it. Could you imagine what would happen if we just took every drawer in your kitchen and threw it into one drawer? First of all, would it fit? No. Secondly, would it take more time or less time to find a spoon? More time, right? Okay, big problems. So we classify things to save time. We also classify things to be organized. It saves space too. Okay, we talked about this back in September about, your closets and things like that and organizing things there. All right, what you're going to write here is just the top bullet point. People need to classify things in order to better understand them, and that's exactly it. Okay, and understand is kind of a blanket word here. Okay, so we're writing this. Don't write all this stuff in your notebook. That's just to refresh our memories that yes, we have talked about these things before. So why classify? People have to classify things in order to better understand them. We classify things all the time. The library is organized by genre and then classified based on alphabetical order of the author. Okay, your home is classified, your kitchen. Supermarket, I look at the grocery store as like 30, 40 minutes that I'm never going to get back in my life. I hate going to the grocery store, but it's a necessary evil. At any rate, as an adult, I want to get into that grocery store and get back out as quick as I can. If I don't know where stuff is in the grocery store, then I'm going to spend a lot more time moving around that grocery store. Okay, I'm going to waste more time, and that's going to frustrate me because once you grow up, playing on the cart is only gets you so far. Okay, so the entertainment of popping willies and things like that. Plus, it's frowned upon when you're an adult. You can't do that kind of stuff. Okay. At any rate, I don't really like to play around in the grocery store. If you didn't know where stuff was, you'd spend hours in the grocery store. Think about how big the grocery store is. Okay. And if you had to go and search for every little thing because there's no rhyme or reason to where it is. Think about ice cream. Okay. We usually come to the ice cream first or last in the grocery store.
Last.
Yeah, hopefully it's last. Because if we came to it first and pulled it out of the freezer, what's the ice cream going to start to do?
Melt.
Yeah, and by the time you get to the checkout and home, it's going to be soup. Okay, maybe not hot, but definitely not solid. Okay. These things save us time. They help. They help us to save that convenience. It's that convenience factor there. Classification is something we did talk about back in September. It's a basic science skill. So this entire chapter is all about that skill. And what are we talking about? Well, we're in life science, so we're going to classify living things. Last year in chemistry class, what did you classify with the periodic table? Elements, right? So you had your noble gases, you had your halogens, so on and so forth, right? Everything was organized, okay, into periods and things like that, into those groups. We got all those guys down. That's what we do for classification in chemistry class. In biology, we're going to talk about organizing and classifying living things. And folks, that's called taxonomy, one of our vocabulary terms. We're going to talk a little bit more about on Monday. All right, so don't rewrite classification. You already wrote it once. We're just right underneath there. We're going to write these things here, and then we're going to talk about them as we go. Scientists use classification to organize different organisms found on Earth. And I do say organisms there because that's what it is. Okay? When we first started to realize, okay, well, humans exist, and people started moving around from continent to continent, they probably started to realize that, okay, not all humans look alike. Okay? Yes, we have 2 ears and we have a nose and arms and legs, but our hair color, how we talk, our skin tones and things like that are different. Okay. So initially, when they started to, see different humans, maybe they didn't think that we were the same species. I mean, we don't even communicate with the same language. And until, more and more time passed, and we start to realize, okay, yes, everybody is the same species. So initially, we found organisms on Earth, and then we use this classification to kind of group them together. Okay, so much so that we do recognize now what is a human. Same thing for a donkey, a horse, a zebra, a kitty cat. Classification enables scientists to see how organisms relate to each other. And that's the big kicker here. Every single day, organisms die. Yes, every day. If any other organism can die, so can we, right? So understanding that organism, understanding reasons why organisms die, that's a big thing, okay? Let's relate it to something that's like currently, or maybe in the last couple of years, current, okay? Some people got COVID and they barely got sick, okay? Young people, okay? For some reason, you guys got COVID and you could get over it really, really quickly. Sometimes what happens, some people got it and they end up perishing from it. There's a reason why. There's something to do there. And so scientists go to work to kind of understand that. We're all humans. We're all the same species, same basic DNA. But something has to determine whether or not we are able to survive with something such as that. Same thing for the flu. Same thing for any other virus that's out there or bacterial infections. The fact is, some people get malaria and they live. And then other people get it and they die. There has to be a connection there. And this is why scientists study these things, these relationships, and classify. Okay? So we know organisms die every day. We also know that organisms go extinct. What's that mean? What's that? All of that species dies, right? When an organism goes extinct, it's not just that specific one, it's the entire species. So it's important to know, why organisms of the same species die and others don't. But it's also important to know what makes certain species go extinct and others survive. Fact is, the dinosaurs roamed thousands of years ago, and many of them died. But did all of them die? Did all organisms living at the time of the dinosaurs die off? No. So there has to be a reason. Okay? And that's what scientists study. Because if other species can go extinct, what can happen to us? We can go extinct too. Okay? And that, folks, is one major reason why we study what we study. Why do we look into space? Why do we study asteroids, meteors, and comets? Because these things are up there, and if they hit the Earth, Earth is done. So scientists take a look at space because they want to make sure that if something is coming to the Earth, we can try to do something. And we'll talk about what that something is next year in Earth and Space. This is why we study things, okay? To help continue living, okay? To continue life, all right? How many organisms are currently classified? Now, this is in today's standard, right? Of every organism that has once existed and now extinct, and of every organism that is now existing, there is about 1.75 million different species. Every human is one species, one. So there's 12 billion of us, but we make up one of that 1,750,000. One. Every dog is one of that 1.75 million. T-Rex, every T-Rex, 1.75 million, one of them. Every other dinosaur is one of them. Species. 1.75 million. That's a big number. And every day, new organisms are discovered. And why do you think we discover things every day? What's that? Okay, technological advances, okay, maybe better equipment to see things, like especially if you think about like submarines and things like that. Are these organisms just like coming up to us and be like, hey, you don't know me, but here I am, and I've lived here for the last 50 years? No? Yes? No? No. What's their response? We walk into the woods, and what do? They run. They scatter. Right? What do you think happens when we take a big submarine down into the ocean floor? Yeah, they go away. They swim. They're gone. Okay? Think about the size of Earth. Think about the amount of Earth that we've actually been able to explore. Earth is 72% water. Have we been to every 72%? Or all of that 72%? No. Some of it we can't get to. What about the land? 28% land. Have we been to every part of land? No. Hey. Yeah, people go on to Antarctica, but they don't go to vacation. They aren't exploring the entire continent. Okay. Like recently, a guy in the last couple of weeks, he was trying to trek across Antarctica, and he like stopped with like a day and a half left. He was like 60 some miles to go before he made it, but he couldn't do it anymore. In Antarctica, are animals used to seeing us? No. So are they less likely or more likely to run away? Yeah, more likely to run away. Plus, it's Antarctica. Nobody's going to stand out in the open and wait to be discovered. It's cold. You can take shelter or be somewhere close to their habitat and their living space. 1.75 million. Okay, of that guy. Sorry, I do have some written things here. Of that guy, 2/3 of those are insects. So of the 1.75 million, it's a big number, 2/3 of that, which is over a million, over a million of those species are insects. Bless you.
Thank you.
Now, we hear that word insect, we know what that is. You probably get a visualization of what insects are. Sorry. Okay. So we know what insects are. Think about insects. How many different insects can you name? Naming them's hard, but can you think of a whole bunch of them? Yeah. There's so many insects in the world. Okay, so many insects. 1.75 includes all the dinosaurs and anything else that's gone extinct, plus every other thing, every plant that we know of, every fungus, every bacterium that we know of. That's that number. 2/3 are insects. There's a lot of insects in the world. Okay. This is why, there's a lot of people in the world that believe that insects will end up killing off quite a few species. Okay. There's so many of them. Okay. In today's standard, we do have a lot of disease that's caused by insects or transmitted by insects. In other countries around the world, they have a lot more of it. In Pennsylvania, we don't have the prevalence of malaria because we have a winter. Mosquitoes don't live through winter. They die off. Ticks die off. Okay, deer are currently faced with a couple different things. Okay, number one, EHD, which is encephalohemorrhagic disease, which is a tick-borne disease. They get bit by a tick who's infected. He's not sick, but he's just carrying infected blood from another deer. And he bites another deer, and then he passes to them. And the deer is dead in 5 days. Looks completely fine, but the inside of its brain is basically shredded with lesions. All kinds of diseases are transported or transmitted by bugs. We're just fortunate that our bugs don't have an extra growing season and they have to go through a period of dormancy or they die off. Otherwise, we'd have a much, much larger problem. It's estimated that there are approximately 13 to 14, that's what this little tilde means, this little squiggly line, approximately 13 to 14 million different species on Earth. Let's estimate that we know about 2 million. Okay, so that 1.75, we're going to round up with 2. And we'll lowball this to 13. 2 out of 13. That's a very, very small fraction. Remember what we said. Earth is huge. It's huge. The likelihood of us knowing every single thing that exists, very slim. Very, very slim. Even then, think about all the organisms that have gone extinct. It's estimated that since the beginning of life, that there's been 99% of all living things have gone extinct. You guys grew up in the time frame where Dinosaur Train, the TV show The Dinosaur Train, that was big. Okay? Talked about all different kinds of dinosaurs. How do we know that dinosaurs exist? Fossils. Does every living thing leave a fossil behind? No, conditions have to be right. Think about a T-Rex, okay? I've seen Jurassic Park. Chances are you have too. He doesn't look like the neatest eater, okay? He's not like cleaning off those bones and then setting them on the ground and then burying them so they can make fossils. No. Okay? It's like a shark attack. Okay? Everything goes everywhere. Think about roadkill here. You know, a squirrel gets hit on the road. Is he going to become a fossil? Probably not, right? Most of the time, what happens? Squirrels laying dead on the road. Then what happens? Birds, crows will come in, eat them. Vultures. What's that? Yeah, I think you're thinking AAA there. But there's somebody that comes around and picks them up, but probably not squirrels so much. Robbie, what were you saying?
It will decompose.
Decompose. Bacteria come in. Fungus comes in, right? Okay. People run over it. Break it down. What about this weather? Does that have any effect on anything? The sun, does it have any effect? Yes. Okay. That squirrel's not going to leave a fossil behind. The only way he gets to leave a fossil behind, okay, you know, we flooded last Friday. The road flooded and stuff like that. So maybe the squirrel gets picked up with water and then transported to low elevations where more dirt gets put on top of them. And then 100 years from now, that dirt is compacted down. And then 100 years after that, it's compacted down some more, dries out, and then we get a fossil. Fossils take a lot of time. Most things that die don't leave fossils behind. So think about the dinosaurs, okay? Pretty confident that I know like 8 or so dinosaur names, okay? You guys, Dinosaur Train kids, you guys know more. Okay? Yeah, I know the song. Okay? My younger kids got into Dinosaur Train. At any rate, almost all of these extinct organisms leave no fossil record behind. The only reason we know the dinosaurs have existed that we talk about and the Dinosaur Train, has the educational program on, is because there's fossils on it. Are they complete fossils? Think every fossil skeletal remains that we find is complete? No. And in fact, I forget what it is. It's like 6 Tyrannosaurus rex complete fossils. The rest of them are kind of incomplete, where they're missing a couple bones, so on and so forth. When we think about it, are there more than 6 museums around the world that display T-Rex? Yeah, so what do? They take molds and casts and make bones from artificial materials so they can display the sheer size and make a model of the skeleton. Is there likely more than 6 T-Rexes that existed in the world? Oh, I would think so, right? Otherwise, the chances that, 2 of those 6 meet up to have babies is not so good. Think about the dinosaurs in their sheer size. Were they really meant and designed to live for very, very long? Think about it. Would they be able to roam Earth today? Be kind of like Godzilla, okay, and or King Kong in a modern day city. Total destruction. What about a woolly mammoth? That's even more recent. Are they really designed to survive today? Woolly mammoths roamed Siberia in the upper reaches of the Arctic Circle. When they lived there, it was covered in plants, not like a rainforest, but enough plants that they could eat them. What happened? Now it's all covered in snow. They died from an ice age. The only reason we see woolly mammoths, and the biggest difference here, we have woolly mammoth DNA because of it being preserved in what? Ice. So it wasn't fossilized. Okay? It was preserved. Okay? Where they find like complete fossils of like prehistoric foxes and saber-toothed tigers and things like that. Woolly mammoths have been found with grass in their stomach, which means what? They had to recently eat. So literally, they were having dinner, and then they died, froze to death in the ice. That's bad. That's what we call cosmic winter, something that comes on super, super fast. There's a reason why. Did everything die? No, but they did. They did. And the only reason we know they exist today is because we found something of them. Okay? Levi?
Would like elephants be related to
Elephants are considered to be a relation. There's arguments in the scientific community right now, and have been ongoing since they, found several fossils, or not fossils, sorry, several remains in the ice where they preserved the DNA. There's arguments that they could, bring the woolly mammoth back from extinction by using an African elephant and taking an egg of hers, removing the DNA from it, and implanting DNA from a woolly mammoth, and then using her as like a surrogate mother. The only problem is, where would we put woolly mammoths? Siberia doesn't look like it did once before. Where would we put saber-toothed tigers? I don't think you want them. Yeah, but how many saber-toothed tigers do you have in the zoo? And we're bringing them back just to put them in captivity? That's not good. I mean, if we introduce saber-toothed tigers to Pennsylvania, we're going to lose a lot of populations, folks. They're going to leave, and then that's going to cause a shift in other populations, or they're going to die off, okay? Including us. I don't want to meet a saber-toothed tiger, okay? Not walking down the street, okay? What's up there, Mad Kid? You lost the question. Could you imagine when a couple years ago, you guys are probably too young for this, but a man had basically a menagerie of animals. He had like 66 animals that included bears, tigers, wolves, a lion, and a couple monkeys, so on and so forth. So 66 total. Well, one reason or another, he left them out, and then he ended up taking his own life. Well, when he left them out, nobody knew about it. Well, this was in Zanesville, Ohio, which isn't far from here. It's about 2 hours. At any rate, there were literally phone calls to 911 saying, I think I saw a lion on the side of the road. And the first phone call, they're like, yeah, okay, whatever, you're crazy. So they hung up. And then they kept getting more phone calls about lions, wolves, so on and so forth. And they knew this menagerie was there. Found out that, this is what happened. He had set them all free. So literally on the sides of roads, there were those like alert signs that read stuff and says, stay in your car, exotic animals loose. So, you know what I mean? Like, they couldn't find the monkey, which was a problem. Okay. One of the monkeys was, had hepatitis, and which could be a problem if it bites somebody and stuff like that, then you could get hepatitis from it. So they couldn't find the monkey, and so several days later, they tried to capture the animals. That wasn't working because these are wild animals. So when they would dart them to, put them under anesthesia so they could catch them and stuff like that, humanely, they were trying to attack them. So they ended up having to kill most of them. Well, they couldn't find this monkey, and after a couple days, they started to think, okay, well, maybe we should open some of these tigers and some of these predators up because they might have ate this monkey. Well, lo and behold, they opened like the sixth tiger up, and there was the monkey in his stomach. Okay, he had eaten the tiger. So this is what I imagine the monkey did. He got set free, and just like monkeys do, I'm imagining this. He monkeyed around. He just joked around and screwed around instead of running away, and then the tiger pounced on him and ate him. Okay, so don't monkey around. Okay, that's what that means. Okay, all right. But yeah, true story, 100%. Poor little monkey. He tasted freedom, and then he immediately got eaten by a tiger. So, at any rate, give me 1 minute. Let's go over this guy. 99% of all species are smaller than a bumblebee. Okay, so we already said 2/3 of them are insects. Okay, so 2/3 being smaller than a bumblebee. Okay, we can get kind of on board with that. But what other species are smaller than insects? Yeah, bacteria. Thousands and thousands and thousands of different species of bacteria. What about fungus? What about other organisms that are microscopic? Okay, protists. There's so many things out there that are smaller than insects. Okay, 99%. We're the anomaly. Big things. Okay, big things take a lot of energy. Okay, we're not really built. Big things aren't really built to survive very, very long periods of time. Okay, so that's why we kind of go to work to studying everything we do. All right, you're going to write history. Don't write F classification because we know that is. Caleb, question, comment?
Just like the elephants that like walk through some of the truck.
Yeah. Did they catch them all? I don't even know. I know they caught a bunch. Where was that at? That was here, Pennsylvania. I forget where though. Was it? Okay. Yep. Taste of freedom. Yeah. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to talk about this history of classification. We're going to first talk about a man by the name of Aristotle. Now, that name should ring a bell to you because, yes, we have talked about Aristotle before. Way back in chapter 2 when we talked about cells, okay, he wasn't the one that discovered cells. No, okay? Remember, that was Robert Hooke. Aristotle was a Greek scientist, ancient Greece too, okay? So ancient that we only have statues of him because why don't we have photos? Yeah, technology didn't exist, right? Cameras, no cameras. So we have statues and paintings of him and things like that. He's a scientist. It was really a polymath, okay? A philosopher, a scientist, a mathematician that lived in ancient Greece about 2,000 years ago, okay? Over 2,000 years ago. So what's Aristotle do? Okay, well, Aristotle wants and starts to make this classification system of organisms that he finds. Now, he lives in ancient Greece, and 100 years ago, we didn't live as long as we did today. So you think Aristotle lived to, the ripe old age of 60? No. Okay. Do you think he was well-traveled, traveled to Australia and Antarctica and all these other? No, definitely not. Okay. Traveling back then was a lot more risky than it is today, all right? Most of the time when people left, they didn't come back, which is why people thought the earth was flat. Yeah. Makes sense. Oh, they left. They sailed off the end of the earth and they can't come back now, okay? Aristotle takes the organisms he knows. Is he likely to know a whole bunch of organisms living in ancient Greece? No. But he does take the organisms he knows and he divides them into two groups. Plants and animals. Now, we can get on board with this, right? Plants and animals. That makes sense. He divides them into these two groups, and this works for him and what he needs to do. Aristotle never knows anything about bacteria. Aristotle looks at fungus. I'm sure they had mushrooms growing in ancient Greece, and he looks at those. They're growing out of the ground. They don't seem to be eating things like we do, so what does he think they are? Yeah, he says, oh, those are plants. So this is good. Everything works. System is good. Okay. Aristotle's system was used for a very, very long time because he doesn't just stop at plants and animals. He goes a little bit further. Okay? He takes those plants and animals and he divides them further into smaller subgroups. And this is no different than our next scientist did as well. Aristotle divides them into blood and bloodless. Now, we're not talking about plants here. This is animals. He also says, okay, well, how do they move? And paraphrase this, guys. Don't write the whole thing. He divided them into 3 groups according to how they move. Do they walk? Do they fly? Do they swim? Where do we go? Walk. How many of you can swim? What about ducks? That'd be all 3, right? They can walk. They waddle, but they can walk. They can fly. When you see a duck, their wings are moving super, super fast. That's a duck. And they definitely can swim. Where do they go? That was a problem with Aristotle's system. Okay, but Aristotle had a whole bunch of stuff on his plate, so he really didn't correct that flaw or anything like that. Okay? He had said, okay, land, water, air. Okay, and like I said, you don't have to write this stuff. If you wrote walking, flying, swimming, we can understand that. This system was actually used for a very, very long time. Okay? It was used well into the 1600s. Remember this, think of this time period, okay? So this is BC, ancient Greece. So then when ancient Greece falls, and then we get all of like the China dynasties and stuff like that. All this conquering, all these world leaders, like these, big leaders and stuff like that, the birth of all these things. So really life is not, it's not that stable for a very long time, okay? Then we get into like the thousands, where we get the Vikings and then the conquering of different nations and things like this. We get to Columbus. And stuff. So yeah, big moves in science aren't really a big thing. We've talked about this, okay? Why isn't America in the forefront in the 1600s when cells are discovered? It's because America wasn't in existence. Okay, it was brand new. We were getting ready to fight a revolution. What were we doing in the post World War II age? Well, we were getting our country back together. That's why we don't make big contributions in DNA. So this stuck for over 1,600 years. And it wasn't until we get to our next scientists that we get our next development here, and that's who made modern taxonomy. All right, your homework assignment. You're going to go to the next clean page in your notebook. If it's on the back side of the current page, use it, okay? In the margin up at the top, you're going to write number 1. Okay, you'll write 1 through 50. Okay? You're going to count, okay, label them 1 through 50 on that page, and you can make 2 columns if you need to. You're going to give me 50 different species of organisms. Okay? Use your head. 50. You don't even have to, these will just come right off, okay? You can use us as 1. Human. Don't tell me golden retriever or poodle. That's a dog, right? Okay. Oh, down at home. I'm sorry, you didn't go down. Golden retriever, poodle. That's a dog. Don't say fish. Give me a fish. Go trout. Don't say rainbow or brook or anything like that. Trout. That's good. Okay. Yeah. Lots. Don't say tree. Say oak tree or pine tree. Okay. Narrow it down. Give me a species, okay? Nothing else. 1 through 50. Right there. How many you got so far? 12? 10. Look at that. 10. Done. Good. Flip it away. Have a great weekend. It's Friday. I keep forgetting it's Friday. It's Friday. Yay. All right, folks. At home, you're going to do the same thing there, okay? 1 through 50. Bring it in. Have a great day.